not in China's interest that Africa should become a superpower.
The salvation for Africa is from the UK, myself.
Everyone will now have to bow down to Africa.
How do we go about determining that vision of Africa?
Well, that's the only way Africa is going to be the superpower we want it to be.
But they have total supreme rule.
Everything can be reverse engineered. That is what China has done.
For Africa to do anything like we're saying we want it to do, the whole world will be in opposition.
Cultural revolution.
I won't call it that.
Right? That's what they call it. And I'm not so concerned about what you call it. See, China will never ever put Africa in a position where Africa is anything less than a client of China.
Hi everyone, I am Felicia Olutis. Welcome back to Conclusion Online. Today's topic is China's influence within Africa. Is it positive or is it detrimental to Africa? So, welcome gentlemen, all male cast today. Greetings to you too. Okay, so you guys have already been talking about this. So I just basically want to carry on the whole conversation. Is China's involvement in Africa detrimental to the well-being of Africa, or are there more positives than negatives?
So, as far as I know in history, China was part of, I think it was part of the British Empire at one point, especially Hong Kong was and so forth. But across the playing field in those times, in the early 900s, Pakistan, India, China, all the countries in Africa that are owned by the British and Caribbean countries, they're never all on the same playing level. Yeah? They're all colonies. They had some infrastructure, but they didn't want to charge their own development as such. After being released, getting their independence, a lot of industrial regimes and coups happened in East Asia, and thus they became manufacturing districts, essentially in East Asia, which earned a lot of money. For us, it wasn't talking about African people. That wasn't the case as such. We had some economies who was very good at agriculture as well, but we didn't have the industrial boom that was seen as in Asia. Now, come fast forward to 2000, and well, from when we've been doing it from 2010 and so forth, China's been diversifying the economy and moving into Africa. And the reason why is because China doesn't have all the resources to maintain itself. There are 1 billion plus people, a lot of people to feed, and they need to make money to keep the economy afloat. And they have a debt bubble which is increasing. So they need to support that in order that it don't burst, so they need to make money. And the only way to make money is by, as a lot of countries do, exploit other people who need money. Yeah, so I think they are moving into Africa, because Africa is the gold mine. Africa has the resources. Africa has the land. It can provide a lot of things that they need in order to manufacture and still sell to make for the rest of the world at cheaper costs. In saying that though, there is one place which is changing Africa, which is Ethiopia. Their relationship with China is becoming slightly different compared to a lot of the other African countries. And
what's their relationship, sorry?
So what is happening is that the Chinese are realizing that instead of moving Ethiopia, or maybe the Ethiopian government, instead of taking out Ethiopia, it's better you come and bring all the manufacturing to Ethiopia.
But aren't a lot of African countries indebted to China as well?
Yeah.
So
their debt is not simple debt. It's not a matter of hundreds of millions. We're talking about billions and billions, not even like £10 billion or dollars. Sorry. We're talking about, and it's multiple debt structures as well. So it's not just like you owe $5 billion for this transportation network, or you owe $5 billion for this seaport, and it's not you owe $5 billion for we're doing this. And what China doing? They're doing it smart. They're playing it smart. So they go in there, they give them small gifts, like we'll build you a presidential palace or a stadium or so forth. And then they'll say, we'll give you this, but then we want that, and we want that, or we'll lend you money to do that, and get them into a debt trap as such, And that's the biggest, and the debt trap is what inhibits a country's growth, because you're spending. What happens is obviously you collect money through taxes, But then when you have to pay money out, if you have to pay a lot of money to your debt, you don't have money left over to fund your infrastructure growth or your social projects and so forth. So if you've really got problems with a lot of countries have, they're having cash flow shortages in order to pay for those services or provide those services for their own people.
Do you think that Africans have got an issue with money management and managing their country? For example, not even for example, South Africa is very lucrative. They have a lot of resources. However, it seems as if, you know, we allow a lot of countries to basically take the mick to simplify it.
You know, Africa cannot govern itself. Africa cannot manage its own economy. That's not, I don't think that is the issue. I think history has demonstrated clearly that Africa is caught up in a world economy that is designed to benefit Europe, benefit America, and designed to exploit Africa for its natural resources, exploit Africa for its labor and its markets. Historically, that has been the case. And any nation or any continent that finds itself in that kind of situation is going to suffer economically. You know, the world economy is designed to exploit the African continent. And coming back to the original question of China's presence in Africa and its impact on the African continent, there are some questions we have to answer for ourselves as African people. And there are some facts that we need to be aware of. Firstly, who are the Chinese? What's the vision of the Chinese Empire, we could say? A fact of global geopolitics, which is that whoever controls Africa rules the world. If we don't understand that, we don't understand world politics, right? So if China has a vision to be the number one superpower, number one economy of the world, then China must control the African continent.
See, you look like you wanted to say something.
Let me just finish this point. Yeah. So China must take control of the African continent. It must control Africa's natural resources. It must control African markets. The other thing that we have to understand is also China has a population problem. And China is looking to shed a certain percentage of its population. They build their nation inspired by their ancient civilization, their Qin civilization, their Han civilization. That's what inspires them. Africa has to sort itself out. Africa has to define its own nature of being, its own purpose, its own place in the world, its own vision and purpose and objective, and go about defining how we as Africa, as Africans, if it is the case, and it is the case, that whoever controls Africa rules the world, then imagine if Africans control Africa, then we would be the number one superpower in the world, using our own resources.
Corruption is high in African countries, and they have a lot of them have a mindset out just for themselves and their family or their connections only. So the country suffers and the people suffer. Hence, that's why you have a lot of rebellions that you don't see about on TV. Especially Kenya is one of the hotspots in the countries. By the time you have 14-year-old children out throwing sticks at the governmental buildings because they're not getting the services they want, it's because the people in power are sucking the life force out of the country. It's good. It is notable to say, and I do agree with the point that the world economy is set up to benefit those who are already reaping. I do agree with that point, but also know that in order to break that transformation, it takes leaders of renowned standing to have a vision for their people, to break away and decide, hey, we're going to do business and we're going to do business differently. If you're in control of your land and you're in control of your resources beneath your land as well, if you have business acumen and you know how to do business, then you have the opportunity to do these things as well. So I think to a degree, we have to take ownership for our own failings in life. And when we learn to take ownership of them, of the failings that we have, we can then work on them and then say, well, we're never going to be that way again. and have a vision for the future going forward as well. China itself is a communist country. Well, pursued a communist country, quasi, because it's supposed to be communist, but it has capitalist entities within it. Now, the government control all the life, every element of life in China. So they promote propaganda in China that sometimes is false and whatnot. Sometimes it may be accurate and whatnot, but the people don't have to decide. But you have to remember, in China, there's also a rebellious movement as well that happens that you don't see get televised. Part of northwestern China is Muslim. 11 million people, or more so, and they call it the world's largest open prison. The amount of the way the people are detained, monitored. They have people that come and live inside their houses from neighbouring parts to make sure that they're not up to any good and so forth. It's not all abundance of joy in China to say they're all proud to be who they are, but it's the pursuit that the government tried to do this, and the central government, the president of China himself changed the laws that he can be president for life now, when it was only a 2-term membership. So now it's changing from a communist party to a dictatorship. So you have to know where China's going, and the direction it's going, to perceive where the future is going to be going as well.
I think one of the key points you said there was if we control our land and resources. I think that's a big caveat, because reality is, Africa really is a collection of 54 neo-colonies. When you're a neo-colony, i.e. they were colonized and they got flag independence. So some African countries got some very beautiful flags, beautiful, the red, the black and the green and the gold and the stars, all the rest of it, and a nice anthem. But it wasn't freedom. No. It wasn't self-determination. And
or independence.
Or independence, even. And one of the factors there is going to be, so once you're in that state, then ultimately, neocolonialism means, and as Kwame Nkrumah called it, the last stage of imperialism, you don't necessarily have control over your economy even. So, a lot of Africa's funding comes from Europe. Even its leadership. Now, this is a contentious one, because people say, well, after 50 years of independence, you should be controlling yourself, can't blame anybody else anymore. But let's look at Africa since independence era. Kwame Nkrumah came to power in 1957, and he was ousted in 1966. Mm-hmm. Why? Because he sought to unite Africa. Mm-hmm. Peace Lumumba, he didn't even last 9 months, let alone 9 years, because he sought to, as his famous quote, let's show the world what Africa can do when we work together in freedom. Mm-hmm. And that was his agenda. Mm-hmm. It's Legion, Amilcar Cabral, but let's bring it even more recent. Let's go to the 1980s. Thomas Sankara. Mm-hmm. At the time, Upper Volta, which he renamed Burkina Faso, land of the upright people, was bottom of all list of poverty you could find in the universe. Mm-hmm. And he turned that around in 4 years.
4 years.
One of the reasons why China may seem more attractive to African countries, even in the neo-colonial state, is that China doesn't impose the same kind of baggage that, for example, America will. Because if America offers to give you anything, you have to sign up to Americanism, so-called good governance, so-called democracy, and all the rest of things, so-called American values. And the irony is there that America loves to promote democracy, with destabilizing so-called democracies all over the world. Not sure about that? Look at what's happening right now in Venezuela. Until we resolve the issue of neo-colonialism, then actually that's to determine who leads and how they lead. Because none of these people are leading. We can't see Africa's problems down to just bad personal choices or inefficient president. It's systemic. It's designed that way. Because at the end of the day, everybody benefits from Africa's current state except Africa, and that's fine with everybody else. Mm-hmm.
You made a point when you said that the Kwame Nkrumah and so forth, for example, people they were ousted when they went to power and such. Who were they ousted by?
Well, with Kwame Nkrumah, you have to look at, again,
But who ousted them?
Well, ultimately, it's the CIA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ousted them.
And how did the CIA manage to oust
CIA,
them?
MI6, and Mossad.
But here's the situation.
No, I'm asking the question.
No, I think it's the same. Here's the situation. Let me get you started. So, end of the day, you can offer a man or woman of principle money to betray your nation, and you may say no. They can offer me, I'll say no. They can offer you to say no. They can offer Brother to say no. Or Brother to say no. They can go down the road. When they get to the 100th person, they say, yes, I'll do it. That's the person in history you hear about. You don't hear about the amount of people who said, I refuse to tell my people. So you can find people, if you've got money and resources, to do such a thing.
So those are corrupt people.
Yeah, but the fact is, but that's not the primary driving element in Africa.
Well, the CIA didn't fly planes and then bomb Kwame Nkrumah out of the office, did
They
they?
didn't have to.
Who paid for the
Yeah.
plane to
So they provided the money.
13 million was paid.
Who did the job?
Then you could argue
It
then
was their own people that did the job, isn't it?
who wanted him ousted? Because you have to look at interests.
I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah, because the people who ousted him actually, they had no, apart from their own personal interest, they had no benefit to seeing that leader go. But America, in resource rich West Africa, had plenty of things to benefit from.
The bottom line is that the murderers, the so-called National Liberation Council, right?
Yeah.
The traitors, as Kwame Nkrumah himself put it, who formed the National Liberation Council, were nothing but proxies who were doing the dirty work of British intelligence and American intelligence. They were paid
To do it.
handsomely to do what they did. They weren't doing it for themselves. They were doing it for these.
Well, no, they obviously
These
was
great-
taking the money.
And
So if you're working, whatever job you're doing it for the money to benefit yourself, right?
Ultimately, it was to benefit America and
That's the
Britain.
main cause. That's the person behind the
Yeah.
money. But if someone's paying you the money to do a job,
The bottom
you're
line
doing
is,
it for yourself.
the bottom line is, even if they had that desire, my brother,
Yeah.
without the largest of
Yeah.
America and Britain, they would not have been able to do it.
Because the issue is still
The
going to
intent-
be.
So history,
okay, what I'm trying to say is
history
that
would have
finances is one
recorded a
thing.
different sequence of events. Africa would
Finance
be,
is one thing, but the intent,
Africa-
your
One
intentions
minute.
is what's important.
Africa would be no, it's not just intention.
Yeah, because as a man, you're responsible for your own destiny, for your actions. If I go out on the road and I do something which is illegal,
No.
or somebody pays me to do something which is illegal,
Means-
I will get prosecuted. Or I
means-
should have
means
been
an
judged
opportunity,
by the
brother.
actions that I done, regardless of
Means-
who paid me to do it.
These
These
were murderers. These were murderers.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
These were mass murderers.
You're talking
Yeah,
about
these
like the outside bodies, not Africa. Who's the murderers?
no, I'm talking about
The CIA
the
and-
people who were used
Okay.
The
yeah,
people within the
to
country.
carry out the
Oh,
act.
okay.
Who
Yeah,
carried out
but what I'm
actions.
saying is means and opportunity are just important as motive. In some ways, even more important, because even if you have the motive, you have the drive to commit a crime, you don't have the means and the opportunity, you can't do it. Yeah, and that means and opportunity was provided by Britain and America.
You can get
Because-
prosecuted
because-
just for conspiracy.
Well, what
That means you haven't done it,
what
but you have the intention to do it.
What are the conspirators?
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say
Who are the
is that
conspirators?
you're held
Yeah.
by your own intentions, by what your thoughts, what your motives were to do.
Let me just make one more.
If you have a country and you have this brother here who's the great leader,
At the end of the day,
We're conspiring
without the
against him.
means,
We're
at the end
conspiring
of the
against
day,
him.
without the means
Then-
and the opportunity, you could not have committed the crime. That is the point.
No, but you work towards it, though,
and,
isn't you?
and what were Britain and America trying to avert? They were trying to avert a vision that was afoot, led by a man,
Yeah.
an honest man.
But since then, that one man who was killed, right, that was a great leader, that was great and whatever, he's gone. What about other people?
So my question is, so just before you get onto that,
Okay.
were the people that committed this murder, were they people close to him or just people that
There were some people who were close to him.
Close to
They've been around, yeah.
People say that Theresa May, the British Prime Minister, is terrible.
Yep.
But Britain is secure in being Britain. Not only threatening Britain's status and its its standing in the world. People can argue the same about Donald Trump in America or or of George W. Bush in America. The fact is, though, an institution or a secure nation will be secure no matter who's leading it, no matter how weak or great they are. The fact that happens in Africa and in our countries, be it Africa or the Caribbean, rightly we include the Caribbean, because a similar thing happened in Ghana.
You can't really make that statement, I don't think.
I think you can make a statement.
Because I think that Britain is too advanced in security to need to have those instabilities. If you was talking about, oh, maybe this was the 1700s or so forth.
Or isn't that the point? Isn't that the point?
No, but his point is making it is stable. That Britain's stable and Theresa May doesn't have to worry about, or Britain doesn't have to worry about something. But we have warships.
Notwithstanding a woefully incompetent prime minister.
Incompetent.
Still stable.
Issue is why,
but we have technology to ensure us stability.
The thing we're talking about actually are preventing that level of stability. So the issue is, for example, and sometimes it's blatant. So let's talk about wherever you want to go. Let's talk about Haiti. When Jonathan Aristide was in power, you had in the 1980s a group of killers called the Tonton Macoute, who are under Baby Doc, Jean-Claude Duvalier. Now, they were decommissioned, but when Aristide was in power again, they were retrained by the CIA in the Dominican Republic and came over the border and started fomenting chaos. It ended up having the head of state of a sovereign country being kidnapped and taken from Haiti to the Central African Republic. And then he resided in some years in South Africa. So these are the kind of things, when you're not stable, those things can happen to you. Yeah. No one's going to come into Britain and kidnap Theresa May and actually drive the country into chaos, or anybody else. Why are these countries not stable? Because they're neo-colonies. End of the day, if you've got a situation...
So who's responsible for their country's instability?
Well, let's look at Haiti, for example, as a good example. Because Haiti was a republic, the first only republic that said, we ban slavery everywhere. That was in 1804. And in so doing, the superpowers of the age, Britain, Spain, France, did you defeat all of them. But what happened? They said, we're not recognising you.
France backed by America, supported by America.
We're not recognising you as a nation to pay reparation.
Our people should be able to say, you know what, we've had enough.
No, I think the analogy would be relevant, my brother. If you throw in something like a multi-billionaire business tycoon who is paying one of your neighbors to destabilize your efforts. Then you have an analogy that's relevant. That's relevant to the point that
when you say
making.
when you say neighbors, you mean the country next door or the people next door? Or you mean like the people you live with?
In the context of Haiti, which is the point that we're going to.
He was talking about the government for Dominica and so forth.
Yes, when he's talking about a superpower.
Yes, but I'm talking about
that recommission.
But I'm talking about me and you have one country. Yeah, and our people within the country start to rebel against the system.
But then if you have a superpower who is
but then whose fault is that?
Let me finish it.
Because we can blame the Americans for everything. Yeah, we can blame the Russians. We can blame the Russians. We can blame the Spanish. But I say this as a man. When I go outside as a man, I'm responsible for actions. If I betray you because someone's paying me to betray you, it's for my conscience as a man to do. So I take responsibility for that.
But not responsible for that.
No, you are.
I am.
Yes. So I don't care who paid you. You're responsible for that.
But my brother, if somebody pay me, right, I have no morals. I have no moral value. I'm immoral.
It doesn't make sense morals or not. You still have responsibility.
For the sake of argument, I'm going to accept that part of your reasoning. All right, I'm going to take some responsibility. I'm not denying that. But does that absolve the person who pay me to kill you of responsibility? Then that's what we're talking about. The vicarious responsibility is with the person who pay the agent who do the murder. Because if that person, say I'm a mercenary. If that person didn't pay me, to get rid of you, then I wouldn't have gotten rid of you because I have no issue with you.
63% of Africans see the influence in China as a positive thing. So us in the Western world, overlooking it, what are we seeing differently that they're not seeing?
If you're living in extreme poverty and the money comes around, you're going to see that as a good thing, regardless of what the larger context is. End of the day, like I said, unless you do the issue of neocolonialism in Africa, then actually nothing is going to benefit Africa per se in and of itself. We can see that if you put money in something, but anyway, are the Africans that were polled, are they part of the infrastructure that's been developed as a result of these Chinese money? Because the Chinese tendency is they build a factory, whatever, they bring in Chinese to operate it and live in an enclave.
That's right.
By themselves. They may access to African women when they want some fun, but the fact is they live in a separate, their own factory, their own people. So
oftentimes, sorry, brother Latunji, oftentimes they're paid in Chinese currency, much of which is sent back to Chinese banks. Oh, sorry.
So I think in your day-to-day life, if something is less severe than it was, then obviously you'll see that as a positive. But let's take, for example, I think Ethiopia was mentioned earlier, and Ethiopia is where the African Union is housed. You want a good symbol of African sovereignty, that there's a closest you've got in Africa to continental government, the African Union, which replaced the Organization of African Unity. Who built their headquarters in Ethiopia? China.
And they bumped it.
How can you say you're sovereign and another country builds your headquarters? They don't know what's in it, what listening devices are there. This is kind of situation. So
it was bumped.
So the issue is that if we go to the issue of neocolonialism, where and the concept is, I say, it's not down to people's personal weaknesses or shortcomings. It's a systemic problem that you can't.
Africa's given China a lot of freedom.
Can I make a point here?
Yes.
Which I think is a very, very crucial point. It worries me very, very much when I hear such statistics. For one, we know that most of the African governments are championing the Chinese impact on Africa. Yeah, it suits them. Many of them want to get out of the yoke, get out from under the yoke of European exploitation. All right, they're fed up with it, and they can't see a way out, and so they see China as a way out, and they speak positively about China's involvement in Africa. The majority of them are speaking pro-China now, and that energy is sent out to the population, and the people believe. People will believe it. But what worries me is that bit of what you read just now, which suggested that this engagement and this relationship with China will enable Africa to become a superpower in some time in the future. I mean, that's a pipe dream. It's not in China's interest. It doesn't even make sense to make a statement like that. It's not in China's interest that Africa should become a superpower. That's not in the interest of China, because then Africa would have a command over its resources and its land that China wants to have control over. That is why much of China's arrangements in the African continent is not so much for money, not so much for money payments. Much of it is for land. Much of it is for land.
100% though.
China is gobbling up land on the African continent like there's no tomorrow. 900-year leases of prime.
99 years.
I said, what did I say?
900.
Yeah, I hear that some of it is
99
as much as 900 years.
I
Yeah.
think you get 900 years.
But 99-year leases. I hear that some of their arrangement is 900. It's as much as 900 years. But just even if it's 99 years, you're talking about prime African land with its coveted resources on those African lands. What use does China have, or what need does China have of African resources that Africans themselves don't have? And why do we not have the capacity to add value to our natural resources as China does?
Do you think anyone can answer that question?
I say it's because
And as Osajifo, as I said earlier on, this was the vision of the Osajifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. That was his vision, that Africa, in a generation from his time, Africa should be in total control of its natural resources, should have the industries that can transform its natural resources into finished products, so that Africa can be in the foundation, so that it can become the number one superpower on the planet. It's not in Europe's interest, it's not in China's interest, it's not in Russia's interest, it's not in India's interest, it's not in Korea's interest, Brazil's interest, it's not in the Arab world's interest that Africa should have that position in the world, because everyone will now have to bow down to Africa. Everyone would have to negotiate Africa's resources at a price that is in the interest of African nations and African people.
Just in
Is
that any different to any kind of geopolitical kind of agreements out there? I'm sure it wasn't in America's best interest for China to become what it has now become, but America would have been a big part of, it was a big customer of the Chinese output, right? So is it a case of, and what I look at it is, the Chinese will take advantage of Africa if we let them. But the crux of the matter is, we have a resource, we have something they want to buy. It's for us to sell it in the best way possible for us. I don't see how Africa develops without the help of China. I just don't see how it happens.
No.
Right, if we don't do it the right way, they will take complete advantage.
I would say this. I would say this. Hold on.
Let's be clear.
We've been speaking for like 10 minutes, both of you, and we were just waiting patiently.
I think we're both.
You did have to come, bro.
For Africa to do it completely by itself, I think it's too hard. We're not that far out of independence. We're disorganized in the fact that every country has corruption. Ours is just disorganized. They're building infrastructure. I think it's for us to make sure that we know how to maintain that infrastructure, that we can use that infrastructure for our best interests. It's not for the Chinese to come in and make sure it's for us. They're coming for land and resources, and we know that, and I don't think we should expect any more from them, but it doesn't mean there's an opportunity there for us to grow.
Can I say that my personal vision on the development of Africa, and I've been there, and I've spoken to people in positions of political power and so forth, and they've always told me in various countries that we want to do business, we want to do the right business, and we want to do business of our own, but we have to do, at the end of the day, we can't sit around and wait. We have to do business with whoever knocks on the door, right? Because they've got a whole country to run. Fair enough. I believe personally and strongly that the salvation for Africa is from the UK, myself.
Well, and I say
that, yeah. And I say that because, unlike the Americans, who are very patriotic, and the Americans in general, black Americans don't leave America, and they only consider themselves. They have a lot of money and a lot of wealth, but usually they keep it within themselves in America. In the UK, there's a grand diaspora, especially within Europe as well. But because we're an English-speaking country, London is the second or first financial district of the world. It's not hard to start investment companies and to seek funding worldwide and to channel it into the growth of Africa as such. Africa's problem, and when I say Africa again, we're talking about the diaspora, is that we have this concept of barrel children kind of thing. Is when we send our kids out there into the world, people like, yeah, go to the UK, go to Canada, go to America, go somewhere. We never call them back. Yeah. So China, Asia, Pakistan, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, they call back the best of them. Come back, run this part of the transport, run this, you got the experience, run that, and they give them big houses and cars and stuff like that. But we don't do that. We don't call our children back to say, come back, build the country, come back. We have this investment thing that we need to do as such. Yeah? Are you laughing?
Yeah, no, I'm laughing because what he said, you find me with a fellow Kuti track, Perambulator.
Say again?
There's a fellow Kuti track called Perambulator. Him say like countries like China and Russia send their children abroad to learn atomic energy. Yeah. And we send our children abroad to learn how to carry dustbin.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, I think, going back to the point though, and I think something you said actually, you triggered it in me, which I suppose you should have said earlier, is actually we're talking about Africa's relationship with China, not Nigeria's, not Kenya or Zambia or Senegal, Africa. So the issue is, we're talking in terms of Africa and China. So, who determines Africa's vision? Where is Africa's vision? What is it? Who determines that? Who consolidates that? So, and we see the shortcomings of the argument, because the fact is, unless we can actually say there is an African vision for the continent, which Africa as a continent, including the diaspora, holds to.
Yeah.
So until we can determine that, again, in hard bygone years, Kwame Nkrumah advanced one. Since then, we have to look at who has advanced a vision for Africa. How do we go about determining that vision of Africa?
But this is the problem that we have as a people, is that, and as general, we talk as Africa as a whole and say, oh, you know, where are you from Africa and so forth. But individually, each country doesn't see themselves as the next old country as well. Self-governance, and have their own ideas and their own vision.
But until we do that, there won't be any solution for us that can lead to our collective interest.
So are you talking about a united Africa, basically?
Yeah, well,
And do you think that can actually work, considering the fact that you talking about?
Well, that's the only way Africa is going to be the superpower we want it to be.
But
that's the only way Africa
is. That's a nice ideal, but is it possible?
Do we have a choice?
Not necessarily.
Yeah. Or is it a case of we recognise that we're all different, we're not going to be one united Africa, but we have a shared common interest?
I talked about identifying principles first and then logistics.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yes, of course.
In principle, can Africa really free itself? Can Africa really become the power that it needs to be? That vision was inspired by the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey. We're going back to the 20s now.
It is a good point.
Yeah?
When China were being bombarded with opium from Britain,
Yes.
no one would have thought in a couple hundred years, China, you'll be the world's someone superpower.
Yeah.
So the fact is, just because it doesn't seem very far off now, and without that vision and determination to see it manifest, I mean, it doesn't mean it can't happen.
The Chinese
in the 1960s,
they made a lot of
They made
sacrifices.
They made sacrifices in their population. And so it comes. So we may have to make sacrifices.
In the 1960s,
there might have to be land that has to be. I don't think you can get through it without there being sacrifices.
Nobody respected the Chinese. Yeah? That wasn't that long ago.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
But what did the Chinese do that we have not done in Africa yet? The Chinese closed their borders.
They did.
Yeah? They expelled any elements among them in their midst that they consider to be inimical to fulfilling their vision. Right? Then the Chinese even closed their educational institutions, shut down the universities for nearly 2 years, shut down all the universities, shut down the colleges, because their teachers, too many of the teachers were not Chinese enough. And they launched a cultural revolution. A cultural revolution.
I won't call it that.
Right? That's what they call it. I'm not so concerned about what you call it. They call it a Chinese cultural revolution. Yeah,
okay. And they do have that sense of agency. I get where you're coming from.
Absolutely. Where is our sense of it? Where's our African cultural revolution?
Isn't it easier to do that if you're one country, not a continent?
Exactly.
But yes, but you remember China is made of a load of different tribes. Yeah?
Exactly.
It's like there's a load of different variants of Chinese.
Number of disparate
The thing
groups.
is, the point I think we're missing, we're talking about unity, and this is a great thing, and I believe that we should have unity as well. The difference between the Chinese unity that they have is that they are a communist country.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
And they have total supreme rule. And there is no one that can challenge the authority of the government. There is no, oh, we'll have elections next year or something like that. It's as simple as that. What the government says goes. We're talking about unity now. You're asking, is it 54 states to come together and have a common identity. And you're talking also about the Arab states in the north as well. They come together and have a vision.
No, I'm not talking about the Arab states in the north.
Now, Libya tried it, yeah, with Gaddafi, for his vision, yeah, and we saw what happened to Gaddafi and saw what happened to Libya. Yeah, and we know that also outside influences as well as people telling them on the inside as well. Yeah, but he
was not Pan-Africanist.
He had overreach because he wanted to do other things, which was going to destroy the world economy. Yeah. But in essence, if you're gonna go for this unification program, yeah, you have to remember not only is that every country comprised of how many different nations within that country as well. Every other country is comprised of how many different nations within that country as well. The mandate has to be set across the board if you're going to do it properly. Everyone's going to be on it. And it can be done, but it's going to take a lot of effort. But for them to get there, when you said China and Russia, I said 100 million people, Chinese people, to die for them to get to where they are now. In Russia, the same thing. Over 200 million people have to die, 300 million people to die in Russia for Russia to have that consensus across the board. Yeah. So if you want to implement that into Africa, that's a lot.
I don't think I look at it like
that 15 years ago, there's often quoted statistic that a child in Africa dies from malnutrition every 3 seconds, every 3 minutes. So the reality is, our people are dying anyway. In terms of a practical thing, and obviously, like I said already, the borders issue is another issue. And also, what's been implied is the diversity. But even that, on a practical sense, work is being done on that if we want to go down that road. People like Professor Kwesi Pra, based in Africa now, from Ghana, looking at the fact is that some people say Africa's got about 2,000 different languages. He's worked out 8 core languages account for about 80% of all of those. So linguistically, culturally, there's enough there for us to be working with as a basis. The issue really is going to be, do we want it or not? Because I appreciate Africa to be free, take sacrifice. The reason why it takes sacrifice, because unlike China, had its own issues and challenges. But the whole world wasn't railing against China doing what it was doing.
Absolutely.
Some parts of it were. For Africa to do anything like we're saying we want it to do, the whole world will be in opposition. And we know why that's going to be. So I ain't saying it's going to be easy, I'm saying it's not going to be sacrificed, but this is, do we want it to happen or not?
You know what?
Can we envision it happening or not?
I'll tell you why I don't think the whole world will be in opposition. This is the only reason why. I literally think they'll be too busy fighting amongst themselves. I think the Americans are just as worried about China becoming a superpower as they are.
A lot of reason they're fighting amongst themselves is because of African resources, though. That's the reason why they're fighting amongst themselves, because they want what's in Africa. Yeah. What is in China, the soil of China, that can sustain China? Nothing. That's to import it. What is in America that can sustain America? Very little. What's in Europe that can sustain Europe? Really nothing. What's in Africa can sustain everybody else.
So, then if that's the case,
Do you think we'd be too powerful?
A superpower?
Because Africa is made up of 54 neo-colonies that are working in service of their colonizers. We spoke about earlier about the French French. That's 14 countries that have to have half their foreign reserves in France.
Who signed up to that?
Well, at the end of the day, if
18 countries signed up to that.
So you're saying they have no...
No,
I just would have thought that they have very little bargaining power. So we have to sign up to these
The French have their own Commonwealth, yeah, and what they've done...
What happened to
is
those who didn't sign?
They've had the French colonies, the French former African colonies, sign up so that their currencies are pegged to the French franc, yeah, and all that currency is held within the French central bank. So the French basically monitor all the currencies for those colonies.
Laurent Gbagbo.
Who signed up? Who signed up those countries to that system?
One to Laurent Gbagbo.
It was the presidents of those countries.
President of Cote d'Ivoire. He said, "Look, it's time we got rid of this foolishness and actually get out of this colonialism."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what happened? Ousted.
Yeah.
Or France.
The French can't oust somebody. Who will oust him from his own country?
Who were the troops on the ground? When the
French troops went into the country.
Oh, which country are you talking
In
about?
fact, French troops.
Cote d'Ivoire.
Cote d'Ivoire.
So
okay.
So in that regard, so that's what happens when we say, well, get out of it. I mean, even the Italian foreign minister said recently, if it weren't for the CFA franc, France would be ranked 15th economy, not one of the top ones in the world, because of that. So the point is, it's like saying, same with America. Just saying, basically, you're on a plantation, then Lincoln, our friend, signed the Emancipation Proclamation. You're free. There you go, you're free. But the fact is, the conditions you've been under for the last 400 years, you've got nothing. Okay. So what happened after slavery? Sharecropping. Which is basically the same thing, except you didn't have a place to live, a roof over your head. So this is a situation.
It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing because you're talking about slavery when you're under occupation or you're in the same country as the American government who own the land and so forth. Now we're talking about you're being in Africa. This is your land. Hundreds of millions of people that look just like you. It's your country.
Put quite simply is this, on the practical point of view, will it be perfect? No. But can we make improvement completely? If we get both physical